Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Bite-Size Branding live show. This show is going to be out of control. We couldn't even get onto the show because we couldn't stop the guys from talking. It was battle royale, digital marketing channel versus channel. It was gloves out, and very excited to have these boys on the show. As always, I'll thank Grant for joining me and co-hosting the show with me. Thanks for joining me again, mate. And I'd like to welcome our guests, George and Raz. I'm not even going to try and pronounce George's last name. Forget about it. We're very excited. These two boys, quite honestly, are our go-tos in the industry when we're looking at this space. Everything from basically where do you put your money when you're looking to attract attention or engage people online through pay-per-click or through multi-channel. And these boys are going to give us the down low on what's going on and what's coming in this space. Before we do that, I'm going to throw it to Grant to give us a breakdown of how the show is going to go today. Grant, my man, tell us how it's going to go down.
Hi, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, my name is Grant Tom, and I'm known as the head fire starter of the advertising and marketing industry. And what that means is I like to get ideas up and running. I know these two characters very, very well. They are the good guys of the industry. They're the ones who produce results and bring it around. We're going to have an interesting show. It's going to be hard to control them, but at the end of the day, we're going to keep close to the clock, and we are going to try really, really hard to make sure we get the very, very best of the answers that we are all looking for in order to know how to be effective in our marketing and our spend in these platforms. So welcome, guys, and we look forward to the show.
Awesome. Jeez, it's a high expectation, isn't it? We're already on a high expectation. I'm a bit worried now.
Yeah, you better fulfill it, man. You better fulfill it.
I know.
Raz is already backtracking already.
Sorry, mate. Don't get flustered.
A minute on the show, you're already backtracking.
Mate, like, instead of going into George, Raz, since you jumped in, man, let's jump to you. Thanks for joining us, mate. Give us a little bit of background about you and everything you're doing out there in with its Fusion Brands.
Right, so the Fusion Brands, it's a digital marketing agency and a website design agency as well. So, you know, we're actually like any other agency out there. We try, and the only difference feature that we have is what we've noticed is basically is that a lot of businesses simply go out to market and they do what I refer to, and I spoke about this on LinkedIn, about digital splatter. They go out there, they jump on anything and everything, and they just splatter and hope something works. What we believe is that, you know, you need to have a plan in play. And there's actually two components of marketing that we found. One is obviously the strategy, which is a plan, and then the implementation. Most marketers generally jump into the implementation and they don't look at the strategy. So that's where we come in. And the second thing we do with a lot of our clients is that we actually say that you're better off working with people who have the same or similar values to you. Because when you have people who have the same values as you, they appreciate what you bring to the table. And whereas a lot of marketing agencies will try and jump for anything to make a sale, and we think, well, you're going to find that all the effort you put into it, those people aren't going to appreciate you because their values are different, and therefore they're seeking a different return. So that's us, the Fusion brand.
Mate, that is the most that's the most demure you've ever been in a presentation. Like, well, we're talking about my brand.
I'm trying to stay on George's level, very low, very simple.
Damn, George.
We'll let George get started, and then I'll come in. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah,
George,
I'm surprised Raz is still talking.
George, give everyone a bit of insight into what low-cost SEO plans is all about.
Yeah, thanks, Bernard and Grant and Raz. Look, so unlike Raz's business, we're actually not like anybody else at all. No, I'm just kidding, Raz. Yeah, so look, our agency is, as you know, low-cost SEO. I also am the founder of another one called PPC Land, which is more geared towards Google Ads, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But from a search engine optimization perspective, our philosophy is return on investment first and traffic second. And so a lot of the work that we do, a lot of the case studies we run, specifically a lot of the work that we do with Bernard and Raz is very budget KPI focused for max return on ROI. So it's not just about getting traffic to the site. It's about what strategies can we put in place to actually get sales for the client in their pocket. And sometimes that might mean we forego traffic, get less traffic, but get more conversions in the process. So, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. But that's us, George from Low Cost SEO.
How was that, Raz? You impressed?
I'm always impressed by George. Actually, I have to admit that one of the things we have our own SEO guides that we use for a lot of our international clients, but we use George specifically for Australia because he understands the local market.
He does.
One of the things you'll find that it's very hard to find someone like George who actually can do local marketing and get SEO and actually be more concerned about the ROI or the return on ad spend than on actually getting traction.
Correct.
I mean, George doesn't have a lot of friends. That probably explains why he doesn't have a lot of friends. But anyway,
people don't. Yeah, it's funny. Everyone's so hung up on traffic and foot traffic, and I guess you only know what you've been taught. I mean, I had this conversation today with a client, and the goal was to get 100 leads a month, and we've been oscillating around the 50 mark. However, and he was saying, look, we're at 50, the goal was 100, how are we going to get from 50 to 100? And I said to him, okay, well, that's fine. We are at 50 and still at 50, but what's your profit doing? What's your sales doing? And so when he went and checked his sales, right, he had way less leads, or the same leads. When he checked his sales was up 40%. So I'm like, well, so who cares if you got the same leads and less traffic? What are the sales done? So anyway, so there's a little. I just find it interesting that everyone's so hung up on traffic and no one actually seems to want to focus on sales and ROI, which in my opinion, that's what it should be.
How crazy, huh? A business focused on sales and ROI. How rare.
One of the things I'm looking for in the show, guys, is I'm looking for that edutainment segment. Okay, I'm looking for edutainment. I need to be educated and entertained, and I think I'm going to get it, but I just have to set it out there. I'm after that.
So one time, Grant forgot to say edutainment in a show, and I feel like he just intentionally sprinkles it in right at the beginning of the show. Now he can never miss it out in another show.
I noticed that too. So all he shows there, he loves that entertainment. I actually thought about wearing a more colorful top, or even just wearing something different, or shaving my beard. But no. I think he wants something more than that.
Yeah, but it's not entertainment; it's edutainment. You got to educate and you got to entertain. It's not just entertainment. So you can keep the hat. Let's just hear the knowledge first.
Cool. Let's get into it, guys.
Number one.
I'll be here all day. Question number one. Obviously, everyone's welcome to kind of throw their insights into here. George, you're obviously going to have a lot of insight on this one. Talking about SEO and obviously what Google is doing right now and adapting. They've released GA4 or Google Analytics 4. There's obviously new ad roles coming out. A lot of it's adapting and changing because of what's happened with the what is it called? I've had a mind to blank. The one in Europe that got past the GDP.
The first party data policy.
Yes, that one. Yeah. So thank God you're here.
I do know about that, by the way.
Sorry.
I do know about that, by the way.
Great. Give us a little bit.
I'm glad George got my email about it today.
Had a good read of it. Give us some insights. What's going on with Google? How are they adapting, and how is that affecting SEO and obviously the rollout of GA4 or Google Analytics 4? Okay. Let me hit the timer first before you get started. Bam.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. Cool. Okay, so I think first I can't go past the fact that we've actually had an update this week. A core update. So I think that's pretty relevant and quite important for every business in Australia. So it's a core update, which is part of two parts. There's one part that went out May 27th and will be rolling out for 2 weeks. And then there's a second part that will come in after that, based on how many people complain and how much they stuff up everybody's websites, right? They just try and reverse stuff. But so that's the May update. This particular update at the moment, I think, is a good update. It's really focused towards deranking and removing guys that are on page one that have built a up their Google profiles using third-party sites with low domain authority or really weak sites, or have built 20, 30 sites with very thin content. In other words, articles that are no bigger than 400 or 500 terms. So anyone that's gone about in the last year or so getting their domain authority up and getting to the first page through low quality sites or buying bad domains, they'll probably find themselves they're going to get deranked pretty quickly. Look, and on that, look, you might be a business that hasn't done that, and there'll be a lot of sort of chopping and changing over the next couple of weeks. You just need to wait it out, see where you land, and then go from there.
Interesting.
So why do they do that, George? Why do they sit there and reinvent themselves and make these adaptations that we all have to now readjust ourselves?
Well, I think it's basically because people like myself, not gaming the system, but are always looking for an edge to get their clients to the top, because we know once you here's some facts for you Grant, the infotainment, as you said, because we all know once you get to the first 4 positions of Google, it's a 40 to 50% lift in profit and lift in conversions and lift in traffic. So everybody tries to get to the top 4. Now, back in the day, in the 90s and late 90s, there wasn't that many people sort of doing SEO, so there was plenty of room on page 1 to get there and to and to get there with doing relatively honest things. Now, when every business on the first page, and now there's ever less positions organically, right? If you think about it, there's only 6 positions organically now, because the first 4 are ads. Then you have three maps. Then you have some Google snippets. Then you have your organics, and then you have ads on the bottom. So there's like 7 organic and almost 12, 13 spots, which are everything else. All right. So people are now starting to cheat, especially ones that don't understand, especially the ones that say, oh, the Google algorithm is mystical and we can't explain it to you. It's so hard to do. No one knows how it works. Like, when you hear that crap, you know that they're doing everything and anything possible to try and get to 1, because that's all they know how to do. All right. So when that happens, Google has to counter by writing algorithms that filters out all the nonsense and just leaves things that should be there in the first place, or authentic websites.
Raz, what's your thoughts on this Google Play?
Well, let me first have some coffee, because I almost fell asleep there. That's why Facebook is different from Google, okay? But no, one of the things you brought up that's really important now today is first-party data. What's happening, as as George will probably explain later down the track, somewhere down the track later on anyway, he'll explain that, Google's already turned around and said 2023, we're going to take away the cookies. And as you know, with iOS 14, they've already turned around and said, hey, you can turn off marketing, which I think is a bit silly. If you're on Facebook on your iPhone or on your iPad, I mean, you don't want to get advertisements about ballet shoes if you're not into ballet. Whereas I think you need to opt into marketing so that you're actually being marketed something that you actually want. And that's the one thing that I don't understand with a lot of people, is that Facebook says, hey, I know what you like, so I'm only going to show you what you want, not show you random stuff. So that first party data that we're talking about, what's happening at the moment, and I'm probably cutting into George's time. I mean, it's SEO. He'll probably drag it out for 10 minutes. But just look how serious George is right now. I don't, that's SEO for you. That's what you want. You want that SEO guy who's just serious.
I'm waiting for you to say something decent.
Okay, hold on. Right, let's talk more about Facebook in the next question.
All right, in the next one.
All right.
I think George is right. George is right in terms of what he's saying at the moment with respect to, all these people are jumping on trying to find that opening to say, hey, we'll create a number of domains and we'll try and, create backlinks to those domains and try and get ourselves up, or we'll do other ways of getting ourselves on page one. Now, when I talk about Facebook, I'll talk to you guys about why it's not that important to be on phase one, but I'll come back to that in a minute. But with George, I think Google's figured it out, and they said, hey, guys, you're taking too many shortcuts. We need to legitimize this, and we need to actually have legitimate businesses at the top. My only reservation, George, correct me if I'm wrong, my only reservation is that sometimes it also helps that, these larger corporations have a bigger budget, they can spend a lot more, and therefore they get to be on page one because they've got that money to do it. Whereas the smaller size businesses, they're the ones that are struggling. And so Google's again gone ahead and said, hey, we'll go after the big ones because that's where the real revenue is for us.
Yeah, so I 100% agree. And some of the algorithms way back when actually started, specifically the pharma update was really preferencing pharmacies and business and bigger businesses around the pharmaceutical industry and doctors and nurses. It was preferencing them high up in Google, and that was really unfair because, for example, you could have like a specialist electrolysis clinic or a laser clinic that could be the best clinic in Sydney for removing hair permanently, and then Google would premise the companies that provide the machines rather than the people that do the work. So
yeah, I remember that. Like, it's not relevant. It's like they just gave you the biggest guy rather than the service or the
rather than someone rather than someone who could do the best service, who was most relative to you. They would push that person to page two, and then the big companies that they show them, and that was actually against their own rules. So then, Grant, what they had to do is they had to update the algorithm to then undo kind of what they did in a way, still allow the pharmacies or the pharma companies that still had the reputation and were authentic to stay, but then allow the proper companies to filter through.
Man,
take that, Raz. There you go. There's some actually.
Well, no, that's great, George. If I can just add to that, that's why I think Facebook is so much better than trying to do Google Ads and SEO, because Google Ads and SEO actually care about small businesses. They actually care. They don't mind, with Google, if you got the money, sure, go ahead, try and get yourself on page one. If you got the money, sure, go ahead, put Google AdWords on. But if you've got Facebook, there is no, and George, correct me if I'm wrong, there is no other platform that you can get in front of that many people for such a cheap price. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's true.
George? Yeah,
that's true.
So that's one for me, guys. All right, so just put that down.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to run straight into the next question. I think it's a different scope to different folks, right? That's you've got to be where the people are searching for you, not just on the platform where most people are. And that's what we've kind of found through our experience. But in saying that, Raz, it's all your time now, okay? It's your time now. Tell us what is Facebook doing. I think Facebook is evolving like nobody can even fathom at the moment.
Now we've got to get the value. We've got to get the value.
We have Meta, we have new plans, etc. I'm going to hit that clock, and then you tell us what the hell is happening with Facebook, man.
Well, actually, it's not much really going. I mean, all Facebook is doing is that they're just overcoming the issues that Google gives them. I mean, there's so many issues Google gives them that basically
nothing going on.
Facebook says, hey, you know what? See, like I was talking to George earlier about his SEO and some of his Google AdWords, and he was saying, well, I can't tell you that information. That's quite, relevant to my organization. Whereas Facebook has turned around and said, hey, you know what? If you want to look at your competitors' ads, go for it. We'll show you where the ads are. Have a look at what they're doing. Have a look at what they're using. So, Facebook has opened up a little bit, and not just that, but they've also gone to the extent, and this is where I think you'll find the good marketers and the not so bad marketers separation. And that is, Facebook's also turned around and said, hey, we understand that we are going to lose third-party data. When you're actually doing a lot of the campaigns in Facebook, you're actually going through Facebook for third-party data to bring it back. You're also using the browser's cookies. And as I said, as George will probably tell you, next year, Google's already turned around and said, hey, we're going to shut that down. So a lot of the new marketers saying, and it's been around for a while, but only now marketers jumping on, is that they're using the Facebook conversion API. The difference is that that's actually sitting on your server side, and not on the browser. So what a lot of people do is they install a pixel and they think, hey, we're getting the right information. And George mentioned this to me. George said, hey, when Facebook does conversions, it doesn't really give you the real figures of conversion. That's because it's relying on the browser. There could be ad blockers on the browser. They could be using Brave, a browser which doesn't allow cookie holding. They could be doing a number of different things, so you're not getting real data. However, if you using the Facebook conversion API, it's actually going directly to your web server and writing to that. And that's the beauty of nowadays moving into there. Not just that, but we also find in terms of talking about other ways of doing Facebook marketing, a lot of people will direct the Facebook campaigns to somebody like ClickFunnels or somebody third-party product they're using to capture the information. Now, indirectly, if you read a lot of the contracts, they own that data. You don't own that data. So what we generally say, a lot of people, again, in 2023 will start to realize, hey, I need to bring them back to my website and not someone else's website to capture that data. And so what we do in our agency is we drive everything from your website. And not just that, but a lot of people, they don't realize that your website isn't a brochure anymore. Back 10 years ago, it was just a brochure. You could talk about your services. You could talk about everything. Today, it's not a brochure. It's actually not just a story, but it's also a marketing tool that you've got. And that marketing tool can be integrated, whether it be Facebook, whether it be SEO, whatever, but it's integrated. And that data is your data that you're putting on there. Now, the second thing I'll talk about is something that differentiates Facebook to a lot of the Google products. And that's something that I think 2023 is going to be very important. People are over the fact that you're trying to sell them. They know you're trying to sell them. They see it now. Hey, you're going to try and sell me something. What they want now is authenticity, and they want a story behind that authenticity. It's something. To give you an example, like I was actually thinking to myself, like, why, like with the knowledge that I've got, why I'm not going after some of the big organizations and working for them? Why am I helping SMBs? And it occurred to me, I grew up in a world where my mum, had a corner store all her life. So when my mum and dad got married, my dad, while he was working, he bought her another corner store. And I could see the struggles that my parents went through in that corner store to make sure the customers, making sure the customers are happy, make sure they have the products, make sure that we weren't throwing away enough perishable things, all these little things. And we didn't have marketing back then. There was no such thing as marketing. We were relying on people coming into the store and treating them with respect. Now, that is now brought onto the online platform. People don't want to know what you're selling. They want to know, can you fix my problem that I've got right now, and whether I can relate to why you're trying to help me over other people are doing the exact same thing. So, and that's something that I think you can get through Facebook ads a lot easier, and rather than through the Google ads and to Google. But I'm saying, don't worry, it's each to themselves. Like there are certain things in certain businesses, you need Google ads, you need SEO. But in certain other businesses, you need the story and you need the Facebook ads to tell that story. And one of the things that sorry, George, I just finished up. One of the things that Facebook have done now, which I think is fantastic, very slowly they're consolidating all their products into one platform. And they're calling, it used to be called Facebook for Business, but they call it Meta for Business, where inside there you can control everything within the shell of your Facebook, Instagram, Reels, planning your scheduling all your posts. You can control all that, but also at the same token, you can actually look at the data of the insights and say, what's working, what's not working, what's getting me engagement, what should I be doing more of to get that engagement? And what that does is that then driving people to your website to get more information. Okay, and that's something that we talk about in a lot of strategy in 2023. Rather than doing digital splatter, have a plan where you can use Google, you can use Google SEO, you can use Google AdWords, you can use Facebook, but drive them into a central place like your website, and then go out from there and let them look around to actually make a purchase and trust you to make that purchase. Does that make sense to everybody? I spoke a lot.
I want to add to that. I actually had this conversation, Bernard, with John a couple of weeks ago, last week. He asked a very similar question and was kind of like this kind of Facebook versus social versus organic battle. What we 100% find is when it comes to, as Raz is saying, when it comes to those clients that need a story or even like cosmetic-based clients or fat removal or hair removal, Facebook seems to be doing really well in that in those instances where you can create a community group, you can do a story, you can remarket them, you can throw the information at them. Facebook is cheaper, and from my experience, outperforms organic and AdWords. But when it comes to industries such as, I want a tire for my car, like the now buyer industry, or I want to do a price comparison, or send me some information on how this works or that works. In those direct marketing type of environments, like the now buyer environments, you can't beat organic, or even AdWords is even better, because when you're a now buyer, that's what you want to buy now. So,
Yeah.
What? Wait, we're getting X-Men.
Like I'm sitting and listening, and I'm like, oh my god, questions. I've got so many questions. And,
yeah, me too. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, man. Well, look,
that's the first SEO guy who can't keep his mouth shut, George. That's impressive.
Let's
I'm doing these ones.
Let's flesh it out some more in the last question. I do have a statement / question that I want to throw in there, and maybe Grant, you can throw one in too, and then we'll have everyone kind of unbundle it. But mine is around a point that Raz made in the first question, where you said the great thing about Facebook is that or the downside of removing all this data or taking yourself out of the marketable list is that you'll start to get ads that are kind of sporadic and random. Now, rather than targeted based on what they understand of you. And to be honest, my preference is give me that, because if I seriously want something, I'll go search for it. When I get those ads that are marketed at me, they're typically for things that I've either already bought or I'm in consideration of buying. So I've already visited the websites I want to visit. I've already done the research I wanted to do. And now I'm just being annoyed by it. And that's like super frustrating, because everywhere I go now, I see the same pair of shoes that I just freaking bought. And I think like that from a consumer's perspective, I'm like, well, I don't want that. I prefer no ads rather than seeing the same thing. And or I actually don't mind seeing random things. Like I actually like Instagram advertising, because I feel it's so sporadic and random that I end up seeing things that I would have never even conjured in my mind. And I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. I like that it's showing me random shit. So that's kind of my perspective on it, which we can unbundle a little bit more. Grant, is there something you want to throw into the mix for our last question?
I want to take the other side, for example. Yeah. So we're not taking it in the sense of receiving. I'm going to take it on the sense of representing the small business out there, because at the moment when I talk to them, they are panel beater. They're exhausted. They've done things that haven't shown results. What should small business be doing in order to make sure that they're getting their bang for their buck? Because at the moment, they've tried a little bit of this, they've tried a little bit of that. And there's so much noise as to what you should be doing. So this is going to be an interesting last 7 minutes, because now we need to get the real answer as to what small business should be doing, because right now they're panel beaters and they're not sure what to do.
Cool. So are we ready? Is it effective, or is it enjoyable as a consumer? And then the other side is, what should small business be doing to be a bit more effective in their digital spend? Ready to rumble?
Let's go.
Who's going to jump in?
Well, I'll go first. I think
always Google wants to do it first.
What I was going to say is, it comes back to the point that we made before, right? I think for small business, one, they need to be doing something. A lot of the times they're actually doing nothing. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if it's a small business and they use the foot traffic, the easiest place you can start is local. All right, is local traffic and local business, and gear your strategy for local. Now, whether you use AdWords or organic or Facebook, it doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is to, as you know, Bernard, is to profile what you're trying to do, run your KPIs, and then see which platform is best going to bring in the customers that you want. So, for example, in the instance of that cosmetic stuff, I just said we know that Facebook outperforms AdWords and SEO all the time, because with cosmetic stuff and beauty, you need that community thing. So in a way, it's a hard one, because in a way you need to kind of luck. A small business owner needs to luck out a little bit, right? And I made this point to John last time. Everybody thinks that a marketer is a marketer. We're not all equal. We're not all equal sets, and we don't all have the same skill set, and we all haven't worked for 30, 40, for 20 or 30 years. And, so in a way, you need to be lucky to hit on the right person who's going to say, well, actually, I'm not meant to help you. You need to go speak to Raz. Or as Raz would say, well, actually, and he said it many, many times with a lot of his clients, actually, you need to speak to George or Bernard because A, I'm too expensive for you, or B, what I'm going to do, they can get you better results. What do you reckon, Raz? I think it's a bit lucky.
I do have that conversation where I go, George is very expensive, so that's a given. But coming back to answer your first question, Grant, and George, you're on the right page in terms of you have to try different things to see what's going to work for your business, not. But here's what I'm going to throw in there for Facebook. Facebook again is the cheapest platform where you've got the opportunity to instantly change the ad copy, change the image, change the landing page, and see instant results for a low buy-in. So what we do with a lot of clients is we don't just go out there and go, hey, we've got a campaign that works. We explain to them, and this is something that 2023 is going to be massive, is everything is about data now. You need to be able to read your data. A lot of people just go out there, they do a campaign, they say it doesn't work, and they just drop the ball and go, that's it, I'm not going to do Facebook ads again. It's just not working for me. What they don't understand is you don't know what's happening until you get data. And we say that to every one of our clients. We go, you need to give us 6 weeks with this because we need to gather data, change things, see what's working, what's not working. We can change the audience. We can change the image that's working. We can change the ad copy to the extent where we can actually see a conflict between the ad copy and the landing page that we've taken them to as to why they're not registering. All these little things we can do instantly without interrupting a campaign that's running. Now,
but that means somebody has to be willing to learn to run it for that long, to have that data to be able to
that's what I find.
Well, no, that's something we do. It's a given. Like, we have it's a long game. We have all our plans are 3 months minimum. We explain to them, hey, it's a journey, and that's something. That's why I brought up very early on to come full circle. I said you want to work with clients who have the same values as you, so they appreciate what you bring to the table. One of the conversations I have with every phone call with any potential client is that I need to talk to you so that you and I can see that we can get along well together because it's a journey. We stuck with each other for 3 months. I mean, I had to be stuck with George for 3 months, but anyway, we stuck with each other for 3 months. Yeah, and so we need to see if we can work together well enough. And because in that journey, there's going to be times you're not going to see any returns at all. Yeah. But that's at least something that we've learned. And I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, what if Colonel Sanders stopped? What it took him 1,056 stores before the person decided to accept. What if he stopped after 10 and said, that's not, it's just not working for me, I give up. Yeah. Or, there's a lot of stories like that. And I asked the question, same thing with Facebook ads, same with Google ads, except with Facebook, it's a lot quicker turnaround. Google ads, you can throw a Google ad in there. It becomes very expensive to change, and it comes down to when Google decides to update their ads. As opposed to Facebook, where they just turn around and go, hey, we'll just do it instantly. And like I said to you guys, you're in front of 20,000 people, literally, in a day for a cost of what, $10, $20? Where are you going to get that? You're not going to get that from any other platform.
George, mate, tell us.
Come on, George.
In Google ads, you can run display ads, etc., and remarketing ads where you run it at 2 and 3 cents, which is the equivalent of Facebook and then what they do. And you can use like remarketing audiences, etc. The thing that I dislike about Facebook, and when you see a lot of these Facebook agencies, they come in and they get a shitload of impressions and a shitload of traffic, but they can never track the conversion down to the actual conversion. Their conversions are down to a pixel, but their conversions are never down to the electronic commerce. So I think as soon as Facebook updates themselves so they can actually track and convert down to an actual sale or an actual purchase conversion, then you might see that the numbers tell a different story in Facebook. Yeah. So
let me interject that, George. I think it can. It's just that people are using a pixel rather than a conversion API. Okay, so you can actually attach that API to the sale itself. So I think it comes down to how they're using it. What are they doing in their campaign itself? So I'll interject and say I disagree with you. I think we can get the conversions. In saying that, though, in terms of conversions, it also depends on whether you're selling a product or a service. Like Google AdWords, beautiful for products, great. Like you've said that on a number of occasions, but we deal a lot with service industries, and so our approach is different. We're not out for a like a selling constant products. We're out to sell a high ticketed, whether it be a program or whether it be a one-on-one consultation, whatever might be the case. And that approach is different. So I agree with what you're saying, and as I said to you before earlier, it comes down to what is your purpose. There you go.
Boom.
I had the last word, George.
That's it. Ended it on the spot.
Oh, mate, we missed 2 whole questions too, by the way.
Yeah.
It's about the anti-marketer, Bernard. Yes. the 10% that goes against the grain.
Mate, I'm I don't know if it's legal or illegal. I suppose it's legal, but I got ad blocker on everything. I don't want no ads about nothing. I'm like, if I want something, I know I want it, so I will go find it. Like I'm like, I'm like an old man shopper, right? I'm like, I need to go buy a shirt. I will then look on the internet or in a shop for a shirt. I don't need you to tell me I need a shirt.
No, but here's the thing though. Here's where I think you and I'm not saying anything bad when I say this. Please take it with a grain of salt. But here's the thing. I'd rather give the ad so I know that if I'm in the marketing industry like you are, how people are trying to sell. Does that make sense? Like I go to a lot of events for marketing because I want to know how other people, what are they saying in my arena that, is it right? Is it wrong? And here's the irony. I'll tell you this one thing that I learned very early on when I got into the business. I'd go to a lot of these events and they had panelists up the front there and they would say things and I'd go, wow, that's great. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Now when I go there with the experience that I've got and the work that we've done, I question them. Some of them come up and they'll make rash statements and I'll go, no, that's not the case because we've actually got experience and we've got the data to prove that is not the case. When you get to that level, you actually are very good at what you do. And so what I want to do now is find out, well, how do I get better? And the way to do that is to have a look at what other people are marketing. How are they marketing? Did they convince me? And I wrote about this many years ago where I said, in the old days when there was offline marketing, like your pamphlets you get in the mailbox, I hold on to them because they've done the copywriting. They've done the color coordinations and the imagery and all that. They've done the hard yakka. So I want to know, okay, this is what it should look like when I do an advertisement online. This is what it should look like if I was going to do an offline advertisement, So I agree where you're coming from there are the consumers who go, you know what, I don't want to be marketed to. I'm too good for that shit, Can I say shit? Sorry. But there are others. There are others in the industry who sort of go, you know what, show me how you're marketing it, because then at least I know with my business how I can market it.
You can turn a lot of that.
That's a different approach.
By the way, you know that, like in your specifically in Chrome, etc. You can turn a lot of that profiling and browsing. You can turn a lot of it off, so that.
See, George, this is why you have no friends, George. See that? This is why you have no friends. You're turning everybody off.
George, I don't off in this if you're not careful, but you.
It's not the profiling that I have an issue with. It's the ad in general. Like I just don't want to see it. I'm like, I'm good, mate. I will live my life without the ads. I'm a sophisticated buyer. I know the things I want. I don't need you to tell me.
Can I just say this? Bernard, I want the ads. I want as many ads as possible so I can see exactly if I come across a comparative client, how would I market them, right? Yeah, but at the same token, I'm throwing this out to everybody who messages me on LinkedIn. I'm in marketing. Please don't send me a message that says, let me help you get more leads.
I know, all the time.
I get worse.
Help you with your website. I'm like, mate.
Yeah, what is George get?
I get worse. I get. Do you know your page is not on page 1? You can fix this and this and this using this SEO metadata and stuff. And I'm just like, come on, man. But I love when they ring me up. I love when they ring me up and they're an SEO company and they try to tell me I'm not ranking on page 1.
I'll come full circle here today, guys. One of the things that on that point, one of the things that I do though believe in is partnering. It's something today that you spoke about. Bernard, you work with George. I work with George. Bernard, you don't want to work with me. I don't know why. But where I'm coming with this is that one of the things that people don't do, and I talk a lot about this, I go, find businesses that synergize with your business.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go with, even if you find people who do the same thing as you, but they may take a different approach. But today in 2023, it's going to be about partnering with the right people. Because you can't do everything. I come across a lot of startups who basically try and do everything, and I explain to them, you're not going to be able to do everything. Partner with somebody who holds on to your weakness, and even when it comes to when before they come to us, they try and do the marketing themselves, and then they come and go, it's not working. What do you recommend? And we go, well, first of all, it's like going to a mechanic. Like if you hear a sound in your car, you can spend 10 hours trying to figure out what that sound is, or you can go down the road and let the guy look at it for 20 minutes and go, that's exactly what it is. I'll fix it because I'm a mechanic. I do this every day. So it's the same thing with here is I talk to a lot of businesses and I continually say, listen, if you want your business to peak even higher, quicker, then have a look at some other business that can work in synergy with you, and you can each complement each other in that process. I'll give you an example. Like we've got a client at the moment we're doing for wines. They're selling wines online. We've got another client that basically does a newsletter for bankers, for high-end bankers. So we said, listen, would you mind if we put our wines on your newsletter? Because when it goes out, because these are our avatars that we want to attract, because we sell a minimum of 12 bottles. At the same token, you're also lighting up your newsletter. It's not as boring because they're going, I'd be interesting to see what this wine from France is like. So it's a complimentary option. We didn't need any.
While you're there, have a drink too.
Yeah. We didn't need any Google ads or any of that Google stuff there. So there's another reason why I should be doing Facebook.
The numbers the bank's going to be checking is their alcohol limit.
Well, they're going to need the alcohol now that the new legislation's coming about directors' IDs. So, I think they're going to need those bottles.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Guys, we could just keep talking forever. I'm sure. Grant, mate, wrap this bloody show up so I can go.
We can keep talking, but I'm sure George will be very quiet as typically. Sorry, George.
If you want to talk crap, you can talk. If you want to talk statistics and facts and things that are useful, then I'll talk.
All right, guys. Well, basically, that was, I don't know if it was an edutainment show, but I definitely think it was a right hook kind of show because, man, passed around here today. There was a lot of bopping and weaving, but at the end of the day, I think there were a good couple of fundamentals that came forward in the sense of being authentic, do something, keep it local, and at the same time, profit from what you do, work out what you want to get together, profile how you want to, where your target market is, and be able to look and do something within these particular spectrums. We've heard both sides of the fence. They've both got valid stats. They've got objections. But at the end of the day, it's a case of deciding what is right for your avatar in the sense of how you're going to make it attractive. It's all in the offer. It's all in the enticement. And at the end of the day, it's all in the call to action as to why they're going to buy you. So there's lots to consider. But guys, thank you so much for this. It's been great having this interaction with you. And I'm really looking forward to speaking to you again and bringing you back on the show. But Bernard, bring it home for us.
Mate, look, the only thing I would add to that is exactly what Raz said, and what I love about working with George on AdWords is I said, George, mate, give me a little.
See how you don't love working with me, but just George. That's all right.
I didn't like working with you, but that's fine, Raz. You take it that way.
Want fluff. He wants results.
I love working with George on.
I'm your friend. I'm your friend.
Thank you, Grant. I know, Grant. You
Mate, I'm just trying to wrap up the show. Jesus Christ.
Just saying Jesus Christ, you're probably offended 80% now. You're going to get a lot of hate email now. Jeez. Why don't you just go after the LGBT?
Listen to another show then. You're listening to the wrong show.
Oh, we're going to bring in that bleep.
Just bleep out the last half of the show. So, what I was saying is, ask your agency for the analysis up front. I think if you're going to engage somebody to do one of these two, like either one of the platforms or multi-channel, ask them for the numbers. Say, if we're going to invest X amount, or what is your recommended investment in this platform for us to get the best bang for buck? Tell me what that looks like. And if they can't show you that, then chances are they're dummying up the numbers. So find a legitimate agency they should be able to show you the numbers. It's all there, you know. So that would be.
I agree. I agree. You got to have the KPIs before you start. You know, you
Yeah.
need to have your KPIs, or need to at least have some commitment by the agency on the KPI.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. I'm going to wrap this baby up. Thank you so much for that intense battle
Thanks,
royale.
guys. That was fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Please like, comment, and share. If you do have any ideas or guests that you would like to have on the show, or something controversial like putting a Facebook and a Google guy in the house just to battle it out, we'd love to do it. Let's put that on the show. So let us know if you have any suggestions. As always, Grant, thank you very much. You're on this side for hosting the show. George and Raz,
Thanks,
you guys
Raz.
are phenomenal.
Thank you, guys.
All right, I've got to get you back on to just
Thanks, Red.
give me the rest of the answers. Guys, have a phenomenal Thursday night, and we'll catch you on the next show in 2 weeks' time.
See you, Bernard.
Fantastic.
See you
See you
later.
guys. Appreciate it.